Hi.
Hi.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Julia.
We're the Mrs. Raiders.
Up top.
Laura and LeVar have talked to us about doing a video, kind of talking about what we've learned in our first year of marriage, new marriage. We're both second weds. So we thought about that. We thought that's great. We want to talk about what we learned, but I feel like we had to learn a lot of our lessons before we got married
For
the
sure.
second time.
Yeah.
So we thought we would talk about each of our 3 things that we learned from our first marriage that we brought into our second marriage. So that's carried us through our first year. So happy anniversary, by the way.
Yes. Happy anniversary, dear.
Okay, so just thinking about the first thing I would talk about, the Spice Girls were right. It's really important that you have really good, close-knit relationships with your friends, that your partner has good relationships with your friends. Do they have to like all your friends? No, I think we maybe have 1 or 2 that we kind of just don't really hang out with much, but we have a good group of your friends that I love and love me, and a good group of my friends that love you and love me, and we have lots of opportunities for us to all come together, so there's never any like weird or awkward arguments about friends ever, which is nice. That was not my first marriage at all. I never got along with their friends and they with mine, so this was like a really welcome change, and my friends noticed right off the bat when they met you like the big difference. So that was the first hint that you were a winner.
Not my amazing hair.
That was second. That was second.
I see.
That was second.
I see how it is.
So yeah, good relationships all around. We found to be really, really important right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can segue into communication.
Yeah, so my big thing is communicate effectively. And by that I mean a couple of things. So the first thing is to let go of passive-aggressive behavior. If that's a thing you do, stop doing that. And if that's a thing your partner does, stop engaging in it. Nothing makes crazier than the silent treatment, and eventually you just have to kind of wait that situation out. And part of the reason for that is the whole function of being passive-aggressive is a manipulative activity where you don't say what you mean, which is my second point, which is say what you mean and mean what you say. Be considerate and deliberate in the things that you say, because sometimes when you say something in the heat of the moment, you can't take that back. You cannot unsay things, and that can cause a lot of really serious problems in a relationship. The other kind of component to that is by saying what you mean and endeavoring to communicate earnestly and with intention, it makes your word your bond, which is the sort of first foundation in establishing trust in a relationship. If you can't trust what your partner says, you can't have trust, period. End of story. And you can't have a relationship without trust. The third thing I wanted to talk about with communicating effectively is to dispel the notion of don't go to bed angry. I say don't go to bed angry, or do, you grown, you do what you want. A lot of times, the time at which you're having a lot of really intense emotions about something that's going on in your relationship, that's when you're not going to be at your ability to communicate effectively. You're going to say things that you don't mean. You're going to say them in ways that don't make any sense. It's going to be really hard for you to communicate clearly. So go to bed angry. Like, you don't need to be that couple having a screaming argument in the Rite Aid. Or again, you're grown, you do what you want, but maybe take you to the parking lot so that way the rest of us don't have to be involved in your mess. Just a thought. And then the fourth thing is nobody argues about dish towels. Never in the history of humanity has everyone actually had an argument about dish towels. So if you find that you're having an argument about something super silly, and this, it's dish towels is the analogy here, it's really a symptom of you're having an argument about something else, and dish towels is the placeholder for some other root issue. So when you're having these kinds of arguments about stuff that you're like, why are we even having this screaming argument about this right now? You have this, that's your trigger to say to yourself, we're arguing about something else. So it's at that point you have to take responsibility to do a couple of things. The first of which is you need to get to the root of what's bothering you as an individual, what's bothering your partner, and then where the conflict is. And in order to do that, there are two things you have to do. One of which is you need to really listen to what it is that they're saying and then what they're not saying. This is a little different than talking about being passive aggressive and that kind of stuff. You have to try and figure out what it is exactly that the problem is, and you also have to learn how to be your own advocate, how to stand up for what it is that's going on. So I realize that's kind of a lot, so I'm going to kind of throw out an example here. So let's say, for example, that you're having an argument about dish towels. The argument is the wife put out decorative dish towels for the holidays.
There's cats on them, I don't know.
And you use them to, I don't know, clean the kitchen countertops. So she comes in, you're in the middle of cleaning up the whole ass kitchen after Thanksgiving, and you're holding a sopping wet, dirty, stained, decorative dish towel in your hand because you used it to clean up the whole ass kitchen. She proceeds to lose her mind about the fact that you used these dish towels. Okay. So you're like, what the fuck? It's a towel. It has a function. Okay, so dudes out there, me, we've been in this situation. You're like, I don't understand why you would put out a towel and then not let me use the towel for towel-related things. Okay, I'm gonna explain it to you. You're not having an argument about the dish towel. The dish towel is a symptom of something else. That your wife wants your home to be beautiful, and this is a way in which she's doing that. That this is a decorative, it's an aesthetic choice that's happening. That she's beautiful, she's bringing beauty into your home. I realize it seems real weird to do that with a dish towel, but whatever, to each their own. You're not having an argument about the dish towel. She's not really mad about the dish towel. She's mad that she made an attempt to bring beauty into your home, and then you proceeded to ruin it by destroying one of the dish towels. Sort of in the same way that you wouldn't tear down one of the wedding photos from the wall and then use it to wipe your butt because it's all ostensibly made out of paper, right? Okay, this is it. It's a thing about beauty, right? So I'm just saying.
You make me laugh. That's why we're married.
Okay. So that's the point, right? You're not having an argument about dish towels. The argument is about something else. And so the point of this is that you have to be able to understand what she's really saying when she's yelling at you about using a towel for towel-related things. On the other side of this argument is, as the wife in this situation, when you put out the decorative towels, you sort of need to you need to provide potentially a little bit more context for why you're upset. Because you're not really upset about the dish towel. You're upset because you were trying to bring beauty into a space, and that got ruined. So you have to advocate for that. Yeah. It's a silly example, but hopefully you guys got the point.
Well, just to piggyback a couple of things of what you said, and then that's a good segue into what my second thing was going to be. So the passive-aggressive thing, totally did that in my first marriage. Did not work well for me at all. Did not end well, as you can tell. But the first thing when we got together with the passive-aggressiveness, I think the first time I tried it, you were just like, hard shutdown, and the lesson was learned. The lesson was learned. I'm like, if I want to be in this relationship, that's not working.
Yeah.
So that was something I learned right away.
Yeah. Well, because on the other side of that coin, in my last marriage, and a string of successive girlfriends in between. That it gave me a lot of heartache trying to figure out, without any context or information, what was really going on, right? It is impossible to read someone else's mind. It's impossible. And all you're going to bring onto yourself if you try and figure out what someone's upset about when they won't tell you what they're upset about is just stress and anxiety on yourself. You know, so when you're like, hey, babe, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. Okay, clearly she's not fine. Like, you're not neither one of you are stupid, right? Okay. So you can spend another 45 minutes being like, oh, what's wrong, and this and that, and trying to figure it out, and it's, oh, nothing, everything's fine, whatever, na. You can do that, or you can be like, great, you're fine, I'm gonna go over here and be me while you're being fine. Because part of it potentially is, you know, kind of like what I was talking about before, don't go to bed angry. Sometimes you're just not in a space to have a conversation about something that's upsetting you. And that's okay. You just legitimately have to take people at their word.
Yep. Yeah. So speaking of that, my second thing is, for the love of Pete, just say what's on your mind. If something's bothering you, just say so. And if it's hard, you gotta suck it up, Cupcake. LeVar and Lolo say this all the time. If it's hard, you gotta talk about it. The things that cause relationships to dissolve, like intimacy and money. Money was a real hard one for me coming into this relationship. In my last relationship, I mean, near the end, I was like not even talking about my finances. We were not even talking about money anymore.
Yeah.
Because it was always fight. So coming into this relationship, the very beginning, I really kind of squirreled away any issues I felt like I had with money, until she reassured me. She really came in and said, look, we're a team. We're in this together. So you have to give that reassurance to your partner too, that it's safe to talk about that stuff. The more they feel safe to talk about that stuff, the less you're going to get of, I'm fine. They'll just tell you, hey, this is what's bothering me. We really need to sit down and like hash this out. And
right.
So we don't have to, I mean, it's like multitasking. You're not getting anything done.
Right.
You just got to talk about it and rip the Band-Aid off.
For sure. Sure.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
Which that sort of like goes into a couple of different things that I had here. So my next main category was what I call yours, mine, and ours. In other words, expectations, limits and boundaries, and compromises.
That's mine too. So
yeah. So we'll kind of talk about that. So sort of the one and Amanda already sort of touched on that, is you have to have your own support network, which will sort of segue. I'll touch on this a little bit later in talking about what I call the soulmate paradox. But you have to have your own support network. The next thing is you have to decide what's important and leave the rest alone. There are infinite number of things under the sun that you and your partner could argue about. It's not worth it. Again,
very annoying.
You're not very annoying. I'm just particular.
Yeah, you're particular.
I'm particular. I recognize this about myself, and then I keep my particularness to my own self.
You do. You're very good about that.
The vast majority of the time. So that's right, which is the point, is that I'm particular. I know this about me. I like things done a certain way, and if she doesn't do them the way that I want them done, I have to decide whether or not it's worth it to bring it up. Because you don't want to seem like you're hypercritical of your partner, because that's not really what it is. It's just like, I have a way of doing things, and I would like them done that way. Mm-hmm. And if it's really important to me that they're done that way, I have two choices. One of which is I do it myself.
Damn self.
Because I'm grown. Or the other thing is that we have a serious conversation about the way that things need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we've really had any of those.
We've had a couple. There are a couple of times where you just say, hey, can you just do it this way? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
as long as you're not an asshole, generally speaking, your partner wants to provide. If it's important to them, going back to the dish towels, man, I don't understand decorative dish towels. It is a mystery to me. Thankfully, Amanda's not a decorative dish towel person. But if she was, like, I understand, I've dated women who were decorative dish towel women.
Yeah.
So I've had this argument, not with Amanda, but with others. And I don't get it. But it doesn't matter. I don't have to get it. What I get is that the decorative dish towels are important to you for aesthetic reasons, and I will endeavor to not use them for towel-related things, that they just hang there and look nice.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple things like how you want your socks folded.
They fit in it. Otherwise, they get all... I'm sorry. I fold my underwear, too, so I'm sure everyone on their mother's going to
I never folded my underwear until I met her. There is a way I learn new things every day. Yeah, my drawer and your drawer do not look at all the same.
Nope, they sure don't.
Somehow, I managed to try to fold your clothes properly.
You know, and if you do it incorrectly, I will refold it when you're not looking.
Yep, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it.
Leads me to kind of the third point under yours, mine, and ours is Poe Buddy's Nerfect. That you have to, even if you've had this conversation before, you generally speaking need to assume a lack of malice. Because if you're like, it's not your relationship is not, you're not adversaries, right? You're partners. So the conversations about this kind of stuff go a lot better when you assume that they're not doing this stuff on purpose. It's accidental, right? It's a thing that's important to you, but it's not important to them. And they're making their best effort to try and please you by compromising on this issue or not dealing with the dish towels or folding your socks in exactly this specific kind of way so that way they fit and you can find things. If they don't do it, you just have to assume that they're not doing it to try and hurt you. And if they are, you have a whole different set of problems. Your conversations are going to go a lot better if you sort of assume that that's what's up. I think you had a few other things on limits and boundaries.
Yeah, limits. Yeah, I mean, well, I think you touched about most of it, right? Like, don't sweat the small stuff, right? If you learn what your limits are, like, ahead of time, before even getting into a relationship, and set your standards where you want to set them for your relationships, it really helps you later on not get kind of hung up on little things like, thinking about things like housework. That's not something we generally argue about.
No.
And honestly, I don't set high expectations, but that's why. Do you know what? Sorry, I don't mean this. It doesn't mean this sound, but you know what I mean. Like if so am I. So, but like if I don't mind doing the laundry every day, then I'm not going to get mad at you for not doing the laundry. If I don't mind cleaning the house, I'm not going to get mad at you. Like, but we have a pretty good like equal allocation of work. It just works out that way.
Yeah, well, I think that
energy balances out.
I think you and I are somewhat egalitarian about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in that, like if something needs, if you're the person who spotted it, then you should do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, trash needs, you go to throw something away, trash is full, you're like, okay, now I need to mentally acknowledge that the trash is full and it needs to go out. Because I'm grown and I pay rent here and I don't want to live in a friggin' pigsty.
Yeah.
So you just take it out. Like,
yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily work for all couples. I think that's just a function about you and me in particular.
Yeah. And if I don't want to do something, I'll just do everything else and then we do the one thing I don't. I'm like, I did everything else. Can you take out the trash? Yeah, but I didn't. Yeah, just coming from my first marriage, I didn't have high expectations. I just kind of anticipated doing things myself, and that's no shade against her at all. Like I know that you're an adult and you're very responsible, but I never got upset because it just never bothered me. It's just not something that was part of like my limits. Like, oh, I'm gonna break up with you if you don't do equal housework in this house.
Sure,
things like that.
Sure.
Like my limits are like, don't be an asshole. Don't cheat on me. I have like my limit.
Quality life advice.
Yeah, my limits are like don't be rude. Like
yes.
If there's times when you're not in a good mood, I'll be like, you're clearly not in a good mood right now. This is emotionally to me, I can't I don't have the bandwidth right now,
Yeah.
so let's figure out what we want to do.
Yeah.
There, I have to set my emotional limit. Like, do I have the bandwidth to deal with what she's dealing with right now? Not all the time,
Yeah.
right? It segues into stuff we talked about. So, yeah, things like that. When my limit, and then to communicate those limits, once they, like, don't be the rubber band. My therapist tells me this. I'm like a rubber band. She's like, yeah, you just keep stretching a little bit, your limit, and then finally you're like about to break, and you're like, oh my god, I'm at my limit. And she's like, don't do that. Like, just when your limit is being breached, address it then.
Yes.
Don't keep trying to stretch it out and expand your limits. Just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think we kind of covered that topic. I had
more.
I had a little bit else,
Some-
but we can. Do you have?
No, I
You
touched
got
on
it? Okay.
touched on mine. You go.
Okay. So this is one I know that Lolo and LeVar have talked about a bit on their channel, and I'm gonna sort of put my own spin on this. So this is what I call the soulmate paradox, which is the question of destiny or free will. So Hollywood is bullshit. We all know that, like, intellectually, but, like, take that nugget and, like, internalize it inside your being. None of that is real. Those people are not in real relationships. They're depicting things that don't happen. Marriage is hard. At its core, marriage is a social contract for survival. Or in other words, if one of you is not thriving, what you have is mutually assured destruction. Your marriage will implode. So that's a way to frame the contract of marriage in your mind, is that this is a thing that you choose to hitch your wagon to some other person in order to get yourself across the American West and manifest us anyway. Whatever. I'm losing the analogy, but the point is, no one person can possibly meet every single one of your needs. It is humanly impossible for that to be the case. So you have to get rid of this sort of soulmate, that someone is the one. Listen, your wife is not Neo. She cannot learn kung fu via brain jack. Okay, this is not. She's not the savior. You can't be. And also, and it sort of button hooks, I think, in with expectations and boundaries, is that if someone is expecting you to be all of those things, you have to be like, look, listen, it is physically impossible for me to meet every single one of your needs. I have my own needs that need to get met as well. And your partner meets a lot of those needs, but that's why you have friends. That's why you have interests and hobbies. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you share those things, friends or hobbies. Sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. And that's totally okay. The main point here is you are a complete person already. You're already complete. There is nothing missing about you.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
You crying?
No.
Let's go. Okay.
No, I'm okay.
Whoops.
I'm okay. I'm emotional.
You're a complete person already.
Mm-hmm.
Your partner is not your missing piece. Your partner is an augmentation on something that was already complete. Your partner encourages growth, right? Because you can be a whole ass grown tree, but your partner encourages you to grow flowers and fruit. But you were already a perfectly fine tree all on your own. Absorbing the sun, doing the photosynthesis, making oxygen, go you. Being a tree. So you kind of have to, and it's hard because that stuff is everywhere, is to push yourself away from these like super romantic, this, that, and the other. Listen, there are 7 billion people on the face of the planet. Nobody has ever had that experience like ever. that it's the day to day is what makes a relationship, and that you continue to choose to be in that relationship. You continue to choose to be present for that relationship and engaged with it. It's a marriage is an investment in your own future. Just like you invest in stocks or bonds or mutual funds or any of the other stuff, derivatives. You're making an investment in another person. So that way the two of you are getting through life together. I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up.
I love that analogy too. That was really, really good. Yeah, so we learned a lot. We've been through some things, but we learned a lot along the way, and just this first year of marriage just kind of solidified all of the culmination of things that we've learned and putting it into practice. Like nothing changed from before we were married to in the first year we were married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We already established everything before we got married. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
If you're not in it with a plan and your expectations and your limits and all that stuff,
With intention and purpose.
you're
Yeah.
you're done. You're donesies.
Yeah.
So go into it, whole hog, I don't know. So
We've lost the narrative thread.
yeah, we're done here. So yeah, just you genuinely like look out for yourself, look out for your partner. It's hard, but it's also easy too.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching this video on Slay Married. Like and subscribe, y'all.